On the Buzz Meter this Sunday, with President Trump ratcheting up his rhetoric against the media, Kellyanne Conway weighs in on his war against the Fourth Estate, from Washington to Warsaw, where he went after CNN.
They have been fake news for a long time. They've been covering me in a very dishonest way.
I'm not sure that the American president should be bashing the American media when he's overseas with a foreign leader who tried to repress the free media in his own country.
But the timing of it on foreign soil before a summit in a region of the world where the question of press freedom is still a really important one. No other president in our lifetime probably ever would say such a thing.
The American president criticizing the American press in Eastern Europe. It sounds a lot like something that Vladimir Putin would be pretty happy with.
The thing is, the press keeps losing this fight because they're out of practice. No one has come at them like this about their biases or their assumptions.
Should the president have slammed CNN and NBC on foreign soil? Why on earth would a CNN correspondent call the session a fake news conference? And is the news business overplaying the CNN wrestling video and the taunts against Mika Brzezinski, or is Donald Trump distracting from his own message? A huge media buildup for the president's meeting with Vladimir Putin, and the post-game punditry is decidedly mixed.
The bigger takeaway here for me right now is he seemed presidential today.
But the Trump administration instead offered a very mixed message, suggesting that Donald Trump talked to Putin about Russian interference, but that the very interference itself was a question.
And for the president of the United States to say, my people back home are concerned about this, what can you tell us, seems so idiotic.
I thought it was a very high-stakes meeting, and I think Donald Trump made the country proud.
But why is the press now calling Trump's approach isolationist? Plus, a New York Times columnist compares Twitter to porn and abandons the dirty environment. We'll take a G-rated look at that. I'm Howard Kurtz, and this is Media Buzz. With President Trump escalating his attacks on the media, both here and overseas, I sat down with Kellyanne Conway, the White House counselor, here in Studio One. Kellyanne Conway, welcome.
Thank you, Hallie.
The president criticized CNN and NBC in Poland, standing next to the Polish leader. In response to a question, yes, but there was a lot of hand-wringing in the press that it was bad for him to do that on foreign soil.
The president also said that he would like to have an honest media, a fair media, a free media, a beautiful media. He used all of those adjectives, and I would hope each of us can agree. He's been treated very unfairly. He's been treated very dishonestly, not by all media, not even by most media, I would say. And you know how I've been paying close attention to print reporters, to networks, to cable stations. There are a few journalists out there who have really done a great job trying to get to know this president and his administration, his cabinet, his senior staff. And I think those folks are still doing what traditional journalism has always done, which is they're trying to get the story. Others are trying to just get the president. Look at their screaming headlines. Look at the lower third, the chyrons, and what they say. And I think the media spend too much time talking about themselves and covering issues they think are important to them or that they want the American public to focus on, rather than what the Americans are telling the journalists, including in the media's own polling, is important to Americans.
Media self-absorption, let me take a second to process that. But after this presser in Warsaw, CNN's Jim Acosta said that because the president took the question about CNN from a friendly reporter, David Martosko of the Daily Mail, that he branded it a fake news conference.
Well, that's terrible. I think it's terrible to say that about a president on foreign soil, to go back to your previous question. But look, CNN's had a very bad couple of weeks. That's by any objective standard, that would be true. And that particular reporter also used the term fake news this week and had to, I think, backtrack on his claim that 17 different agencies had come to a conclusion where it's 3 or 4. The New York Times made a similar retraction.
So
none of this is helpful.
About Russia involvement in the
That's
election,
correct.
yes.
So the upshot of this is none of this is helpful to whom? To the viewers. Why? Because the viewers are Americans who need to know what's actually happening in this administration. And the media, if they're not going to, some of the media are not going to acknowledge their responsibility to be fair and honest about this presidency, they should at least acknowledge their role. Their role is to be the connective tissue between information and the people who deserve to hear it. So if you are one of these outlets and you are not through print or through TV media and radio. You are not connecting veterans with information about their new 24/7 hotline at the White House, or the fact that this president in the first couple of months on the job has made it easier for a veteran to access private care if he or she cannot find quality, timely care through the VA. This president has signed into law the Accountability and Whistleblower Protection Act. This president has made it easier for a veteran to access care, but also access information.
But on this question of media focus, and the president has every right to hit back at his critics in the media, but when he posts a video showing him tackling at a wrestling ring a CNN blockhead guy, how doesn't that also take the focus off of the substantive agenda?
Howie, we know from the statistics that if the media weren't covering that video and that tweet, they'd be covering Russia. How do we know that? Oh, because there was a report done very recently by the Center for Media Research and with the Media Research Center, and what they showed is that the networks between May 17th and June 20th spent 353 minutes on Russia. That is 70 times the amount of minutes they spent on jobs in the economy. They spent 5 minutes on that. They spent 1 minute on tax reform. They spent 17 minutes on Obamacare's failures. These are the issues of the day. What do you think is going to affect Americans? The fact that there have been 220,000 stories about Russia with absolutely no connection to this president, or 220,000 jobs created in June? I'm going with jobs.
Point taken. But when the president does the wrestling video, when the president tweets about Mika Brzezinski and her looks, he knows it's going to cause an explosion because the media love to cover this kind of stuff. You can say he's counterpunching, and that's fine. But isn't he doing what you're accusing the media of doing, which is distracting from the things that Americans really care about?
No, because look at everything he's doing. That's all they're doing. What is he doing every single day? He is helping people. 800,000 private sector jobs created since he got on the job. The stock market loves his presidency. The economy, the stock market is up. ISIS is on the run. You've got unemployment. I just read the report. Unemployment among teenagers and African Americans is down for the first time in quite a while. You've got home builder confidence, manufacturing confidence. Where are the stories? Why aren't the media out there telling America that the Senate bill, the House bill, the president's views on health care are important? Because 19 of the 23 Obamacare co-ops have failed. 83 insurers have pulled out of the Obamacare exchanges.
Healthcare has gotten a lot of coverage.
It got 17 minutes. It got 17 minutes in 5 weeks on the networks. Russia got 353 minutes. This is incontrovertible.
CNN President Jeff Zucker telling the New York Times he's trying to bully us, and we're not going to let him intimidate us.
Nobody's trying to bully. I mean, they had to fire 3 reporters. One had worked with the New York Times for 15 years. I didn't even know he'd gone over to CNN until I read his name as somebody who had been fired for going with a story that many journalists have admitted to me privately was very thinly sourced and was shockingly inadequate by any objective journalistic standards. But do we have objective standards anymore? For some, for all? Howie, I mean, you read the New York Times article during the campaign that Donald Trump just compels responsible reporters to suspend these objective standards. That would be a terrible precedent to set.
I disagree with that. That was a media columnist.
Well, you've got his opinion, but I think that many have followed suit. You've had the AP, Washington Post, New York Times, and CNN had to retract or correct stories. And the reason that everybody makes mistakes, right? They tend to gnaw on those bones longer about people than elsewise, but everybody makes mistakes, but it's just a rush for judgment. It's that we're going to go with a single source. We'll go with anonymous sources and single sources because we want to be first. We don't want to be right, and we want to try to diminish what this president is trying to do for Americans. I tell you who notices: Americans. Okay. They see what he's doing for them.
If these media outlets and the commentators are trying to diminish the president, as you say, is that for ideological reasons, because they resent him, they don't like him personally? What's your take?
Well, there could be a couple of reasons, maybe. I think that the media weren't afraid enough to challenge the last administration, and I think they're not, they don't show the same kind of respect to the office of the president, its current occupant, and I was raised to do that. Look, I just want to say something to my friends in the media, and I have many. I'm the person in the West Wing who does not say fake news and enemy of the people in opposition party. I'm not sure what it really gets us.
But
I don't. But at the same time, I would say to my friends in the media, our allies in the media, that if you have disposable income, if your kids are in great private schools, if you live in a nice house that you can pay for, if you have enough to eat and enough to put in your gas tank, and you have enough to make the mortgage and rent at the end of this month, God bless you, but you're unique. among many Americans right now, and you are doing a disservice to other people by not connecting them with the information they need about job creation and about health care reform and tax reform.
But you told George Stephanopoulos that all these constant media attacks on the president, which you're certainly entitled to criticize, are neither productive nor patriotic. Do you really want to suggest that the criticism might be unpatriotic?
That isn't what I said. That isn't what I said at all. I said that, but you're trying to, you and I think a lot of the haters on social media were trying to make it as I was questioning the patriotism. Again, the media make it about them.
That's why I'm giving you a chance to explain.
The media make it about them.
Right.
I think to challenge the president on the issues, to challenge the president on his actions, if the media feel that it is their duty to do that, to challenge, to probe, to question, terrific. That is one of the essential roles of the Fourth Estate. When I talk about, they question so much about this president. I'm not even going to go there.
Some question his fitness for office. I see it every day on the air and in print and on the web.
Okay, so if we're showing disrespect to the office of the presidency, which is the ultimate symbol of America, along with the flag and the troops and some others, but then that is disrespectful toward our nation. It's not unpatriotic to question a president's position on issues or actions as president, even though all of that seems very ideologically charged, and a lot of it is so things go viral and so that people's speaking fees go up and ratings go up. That's for a lot of clicks. But it does seem to cross a line when the questions are much more personal and the challenges are much more disrespectful toward the office of the presidency. So you gave the example of Jim Acosta from CNN in Poland. That speech in Poland by President Trump was roundly regarded and lauded as one of his best, if not the best, since he's been president. And even people who are often critical of him at every turn, they even said this.
That is true. But
why didn't Jim Acosta say that? Why didn't Jim Acosta say that?
Well,
why
because
did
it was about the president hitting back at CNN and NBC, which some would say detracted from what was a widely well-crafted, well-delivered, well-received speech.
The only people who say that are, again, people who want this to be about them and not about
and speaking of the media coverage of the trip,
I'm here for the country. I'm sorry.
In the run-up to Friday's meeting with Vladimir Putin, the biggest single media issue was President Trump going to bring up Russian hacking, Russian interference in the election. That seemed to be the focal point in the run-up.
And the focal point in the run-up, again, it seemed to be, or some people are saying, you mean the media were saying it should be. That should be a topic of conversation. I heard that 50 times for every one time anybody said, what does President Putin think about Assad's actions gassing his own people? Can we rely upon him and others, for that matter, to help us with North Korea, or to keep an eye on what North Korea is doing now, where they've got an ICBM that seems very different than in the past? Should they be talking about energy? Can they band together, as candidate President-elect and President Trump have suggested? Can Russia and the United States have a role together jointly, Howie, where they are joining together to try to put ISIS in retreat, if not defeat? So why aren't those questions being asked?
More of my conversation with Kellyanne Conway later in the program. Let us know what you think. MediaBuzz@foxnews.com. When we come back, our panel jumps in on this question. Should the president be bashing the media in a foreign capital?